Catch him if you can. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, DC Rebirth, The Flash. In a freak lab accident, forensic scientist Barry Allen was struck by lightning and doused with chemicals which gave him superpowers of the Speed Force. Now he uses these powers to defend his hometown of Central City and the rest of the world from forces of evil as the Flash. The fastest man alive can run up the sides of buildings, across oceans, and around the world at light speed. He can also vibrate his molecules to phase through solid objects. Before we check out the fastest man alive, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the Flash stands. Really digging the design of his costume here. Taking the tape measure right to the very top of his head, stopping it right there. According to the readouts, Flash stands 7.3 inches in height. Switching that to centimeters, revealing that the figure is 18.5 or 18.6 centimeters to be exact. For some comparisons, we can move over the Flash single pack and bring in the Flash that we got included with the 2-pack that came with Red Death. Getting his legs a little bit straight. Unfortunately, his one lightning bolt I may have to heat up to see if I can bend back into place. Other than that, though, there's really not much that does change with one figure to the other, short of the fact that this one slightly leaning off to the side. But it does have and feature a different brand new head sculpt, which I'll show you and compare in a second. He also does have different hands, and in case you're curious, yes, you can pop the hands off the 2-pack Flash and swap it with the single-pack Flash if you want to use those hands instead. Pretty impressed with the accessories that come included with Flash. Mostly they're all Speed Force effects that we will be attaching to the figure, and I'll show you whereabouts they go in a second. But before we do that, I want to show you the trading card that comes included with the Flash. This is Flash pulled from the pages of DC Rebirth. I've been a big fan of this design of costume, especially the artwork depicted here on the front of the card. The card, like all others, is a pretty thick variety cardboard, and on the back shows you all the necessary stats. In this case, the source is the Flash #1 comics from 2016. Real name is Barry Allen. Height 5'11", and weight a very lean 179 pounds. Again, like I stated in all the other reviews, I'm sure sounding nauseous by this point, I like to hold on to these cards and put them in sheet protectors, little trading card sheets, and then I put them into my binders. Nobody cares. Maybe perhaps you may care for the fact that he does come included with a display stand. The stand features, of course, the DC logo down below and a singular peg up at the top-hand corner. Yes, same display stand that we've gotten with all other figures. Well, most of all the figures. So it comes to include with that as well. Now let's have a look at all the Speed Force effects, and this is pretty cool. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the Flash. I guess for starters, I could probably show you what the figure looks like up close and personal, and then we'll go ahead and add the Speed Force effects to that after the fact. Unfortunately, I do have one of the lightning bolt parts that stick out from, of course, his head. Slightly warped. I'm going to have to maybe heat that up a little bit and bend it back into place. It's not terribly warped to, like, comparing it to the 2-pack Flash, which this one really has suffered some serious warpage. Just to quickly show you guys the closer look at the faces, definitely a very different expression altogether from the single-pack Flash to the 2-pack Flash that we had a look at before. The bodies don't change too much, in fact. Actually, when you're looking at them, there's nothing really that does change to them. And things that I may not have even spotted when I originally looked at the 2-pack Flash was they had all these little holes in his arms. Did I even mention that? Holes in his legs. Did I even mention that? I know I certainly did mention the fact he did have a big hole on the back. Now, you smart viewers did lean into telling me the fact that this was actually making use of the Speed Force effects that was only available with the single-pack release Flash. But again, quickly showing you guys the face sculpts between the two. I think this is a much more approachable-looking Flash, especially if you want to just have him on display. This Flash seems sort of out of place. Why is he angry like this? Why has he got that big sneer on his face? Like I said, this one too, between the two, I think this one here is a little bit more inviting. Anyways, we'll move that figure to the side. We've already extensively looked at that figure before. Again, showing you a closer look at the details there on Flash's face. I really like this face. If Flash was going to have any expression, I think the smile suits him best. And I do like the fact that the smile corners up just in the top corner there. And just a regular corner on the other side. I like that little bit of smirk. He knows he's fast. It's just the idea that nobody else maybe has caught on yet. They'll find out soon enough. The detailing on his eyes is also quite good as well. You got the little bit of reflection of light in the top corner, of course the visible pupil, and some nice outlining done in black. I'm not really sure what's specifically happening up the top hand corner here. It kind of looks like this is the part where the opening of his mask should be. So there's like a little ledge of plastic. What's that all about? I guess it could be an eyebrow, but nothing really is painted on there to indicate that that is an eyebrow. Instead, you've sort of got just a little ledge of plastic. Other than that, it's a good looking head sculpt. I really like the way that this one turned out. All the costuming is basically the exact same as what we saw before. The raised elevated Flash emblem, like the little electricity bolts sticking up from that. That's all painted in, but at least the emblem is raised, and they've recessed the section of the white, so the yellow stands out a little bit more. You've also got the belt there, also done in the lightning bolt effect. Unfortunately, a little bit of red bled its way, or maybe just not nearly enough of the yellow was painted in place. Yeah, there's just a little bit of that red sticking out down below there. He has it also here on his arms. A little on the messy side, but certainly acceptable. It's not going to ruin my day. If you have a figure and its paint ruins your day, maybe just reevaluate your life. There should be a lot more going on, I feel, than just an action figure's paint. But the paint is a little on the messy side, but it's no deal breaker to me. From a distance, I don't really even notice it. And probably you didn't even notice it until I started pointing it out to you. Go a little bit further down. Of course, he's got his bright yellow boots, the same similar color, although it's a little bit lighter of a yellow than the yellow that they used then for here, because this is probably just molded plastic. Because this was painted, it's not quite the same yellow. It's close enough, but like I said, it's not going to ruin my day. A few little problems when I had this figure out of the packaging was that his diaper, it's the only real way I can describe this, it's a rubbery overlaid piece. Well, the leg, unfortunately, this was tucked on the inside. So I end up having to take get a screwdriver in there to lift up the rubberized Pampers and lift that up a little bit so I can actually get the leg tucked underneath it the way it should be. It's okay for the time being. Every once in a while, as I am moving the leg back and forth, I feel like this sort of starts tucking its way back in, but I think I've got it good enough now. One side is a little on the warp side. That's not the side I started playing around with. It was this side right here that I was taking the screwdriver to. This was just naturally like that when I got it out of the packaging. Now, the hands could be something where people are looking at like, oh, why is his hands got to be like that? Well, obviously, it's so that you can put him in a running pose. That's the weakest running pose I think I've ever seen. But it's the idea that you can actually get his hand in like a gesture like this. If you wanted to, yes, you can swap these hands out, pop them out. You don't have to necessarily make the sound effect when you do it. And you can actually replace it with these hands right here. Now, these are sort of more like angrier looking hands, a little bit more aggressive hands. But if you wanted to, yeah, you can pop those off of the 2-pack Flash and swap it out with this Flash instead. The detailing, though, still done to his hands is nice. I do like the texturing that they applied to the inside of his palm. It's a little out of place because if you are going to just be straightening your figure out, let's straighten out his arms. I want to show you what I'm talking about. If you have his arms just like that, it does look a little weird. Maybe they could have probably thrown in there a couple of swappable hands as well. In case you didn't want to display your Flash in a running pose, then yeah, it wouldn't look... Again, I don't really know what he's doing if you didn't have him in a running pose. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the lightning effects, going back to those holes, one on either side of his arms, one on his back, and then 2 on his ankles, right there and right there. What you do get is you get these lightning effects, and I think these are pretty neat. You get some smaller ones. Let's just put the figure down here for a second. Grab the smaller ones. These are all done in a translucent yellow plastic. Generally pretty soft, less likely to probably break on you, but they're all pegged basically with one large peg down below. And you get 2 smaller ones for his arms. You get 2 longer ones for the legs, the calves. Again, softer plastic. They kind of look like they're made out of gummy bears. I haven't had a gummy bear in years. But these are, again, softer plastic. There is a larger one. And this is kind of neat, actually. This attaches on the underside of Flash's heel. Well, it attaches to the hole of Flash's heel. And then the bottom end of it, you can actually take the display stand, and the peg that's on the stand plugs nicely into that hole located on the end there. You can actually have him in a running pose. I like that. Now, at the beginning of this review, I ended up actually having the front foot attached to the display stand, and I sort of just had this as an end trail electricity running out from the other foot. You could do that also as well if you wanted to. And then he also comes with this back piece. This is going to attach to that back torso piece that really alarmed me. It made no sense to me when I first looked at the 2-pack, but now makes perfect sense because, of course, now we know why those were supposed to be there in the first place. This does have some poseability. There's a ratcheted joint. You can move this back and forth like this, and this is just basically going to attach to the back of Flash's torso. I really don't understand why this has to be hingeable, though. The way that he attaches, or it attaches to Flash's torso, spinning the figure around, located on the back there, you're basically going to line it up, and you want to find and follow the contours of his back. That just attaches in place. Just wiggle it back and forth till eventually it gets into the back of Flash. But again, like if you have this being articulated, why would you display it like this? And the other end of it, why would you display it down? Sort of seems like it's pointless articulation, because most likely you're probably going to have it sticking straight out. At least that's what I'm probably going to do. And then go ahead and adding the rest of the lightning effects, go ahead and just attach it to his arms. I'm going to plug that into place on the one side, wiggle it back and forth, and we'll do it on the other side as well. Just attach it, line it up to the hole, and wiggle it in place. Looks a little strange, I know, so far. Then go ahead and do the exact same thing on the legs, taking the longer of the two, and they attach just to the leg like that on one side. And spinning around to the other side, there's the hole right there. Go ahead, take the last piece, and attaching it into place like this. And again, I mean, admittingly, it looks a little strange when you got Flash just standing straight like this, but if you do have his arms posed, for example, and you turn these just right, going the direction that you would want to have them facing, bend this, twist this back, there you go, and do the exact same thing with the legs. You can bend the legs like that, hinge this to, of course, match the current, the speed force, and you can bring the leg back like this, arch that back. You've got yourself a pretty fun looking Flash to be putting on display. Then, of course, you can also then take the display stand. You can arch his foot back, and then you can line it up to the peg hole there. Although it's not, it doesn't give you very much clearance at all. I mean, when you see where the hole is supposed to be, it actually looks like, let's just bend the toe a little bit. There we go. It just barely fits it. I mean, it's designed, one size doesn't fit all. It definitely is designed specifically for the Flash foot to bend. And you've got yourself Flash in a running pose. And short of you actually just going in there and being able to balance it, it's a pretty neat display to be able to put Flash in. And again, if you wanted to, because it uses those same holes on both the Flash, if you wanted to, then yeah, you can also use that and display it with the 2-pack Flash. Providing, again, you can get him the balance. Providing you can, again, get him the balance. Again, it's a great way to display the figure. Retrieving the fallen Flash, just knew he was going to fall over. Let's have a look at the poseability on the figure. So he does have a ball joint. It allows the head to move up. It allows the head to move down. And it also lets you move it back and forth. Not to, again, mention you can also rotate it all the way around. You probably have seen so far as I'm moving the head, I'm trying to avoid at all times hitting these lightning bolts. At least they are made of a softer plastic. There's a little bit of wiggle to it. But again, I just don't want to warp these any more than what they are. As for these shoulders, you can very comfortably move them out at a 90-degree angle bend out, actually even beyond the point. Up to the stars, you can display Flash's arms. Could you imagine walking into somebody's collection room and they've got all their figures displayed like this? Wouldn't you want to hear the story? I know I would want to hear the story as to why they're displaying their figures like this. I don't display my figures like this. But you can rotate the arms all the way around, perfectly fine. They also do have the cup joint on the inside of their shoulder. This allows for an additional range of motion where you can bring the arm further back than what a traditional action figure would be able to do. And the same thing also applies for some punching action. You can also bring those arms in a little bit more due to that cup joint. And I do like that for the most part, these joints are hidden or at least concealed enough. They really did, I think they righted the wrong because some of their animated figures did have some serious issues with those cup joints being so broad. But with these figures like Flash, for example, they're there, but they're not there at a really obnoxious level. You know they're there. They're helping you along the way of posing your figure in better ways, but they're not standing out like sore thumbs. I lost my train of thought. The hands, the arms rotate all the way around. I really didn't. The biceps swivels back and forth. Flash does have a double hinge on the elbow, and I appreciate the fact that there's companies that still do double hinges on their elbows. I think all companies should do double hinged elbows. The hands also do rotate all the way around, and if you don't really like the idea, again, of Flash looking for spare change, then again, you can pop those off, maybe minus the sound effects, and you can swap that out with the 2-pack Flash instead and use those hands. As for the upper torso, he does have a nice range of motion for his upper torso ball joint. And though not to the same degree, he does also have a lower abdomen ball joint as well. You can rotate this all the way around as well. Then for the legs split out. A full splits for Flash. Fumbled there for a second. full splits for the Flash. You can also move the legs back and forth perfectly fine. Again, I don't really know why the particular nature of the diaper here on the one side is so extreme, and on the other side here I ended up having to take again that screwdriver and untuck it because it was tucked behind the thigh. Anyways, you can move the legs forward and back perfectly fine. You can swivel the top of the thigh, a double hinge on Flash's knees. And then when it comes to his feet, now his boots are part of his calf. In other words, you can't rotate this back and forth. And again, there's the peg hole there. If you want to attach the speed force attachments, you can add that right there. As for his ankles, you can hinge them back and forth. You can ankle pivot them back and forth this way. And he does also have toe articulation. Still not sure why specifically there has to be such a visible pin that goes straight through this. Could they not have maybe used and painted? I guess they probably couldn't have used plastic. Well, I guess they could have used plastic. They clearly have used metal instead. Could they not have at least painted the ends of it so that you didn't see the silver as much as you do? And yes, though, Flash does have peg holes on the undersides of his feet. So great looking Flash overall. Whatever few problems, I had very, very few problems with this particular figure. If anything, it was really more so just that area right there. I've rectified it, hopefully for the time being and permanently. But again, a great looking Flash. Let's put him on display. Get his legs to be straightened out. This particular Flash I've noticed has some difficulty. You know what? I'm not going to keep fighting this. I'm going to grab a display stand. Get myself a display stand. After all, that's what they're there for. And we can put Flash on display. We can also go ahead and reach off to the side where the black hole currently resides and bring in again the 2-pack Flash. Just as a comparison. Again, get his feet to be straightened a little bit better. There we go. You know, even though technically I already did have a Flash in my collection, this really wasn't the right Flash for the job. I mean, yes, he has a little bit more of an exaggerated expression on his face, but if you really want a happy-go-lucky Flash, I feel like you don't necessarily have to get the 2-pack. Get the 2-pack if you want to have Red Death, but I think if you want really a good-looking Flash, you don't necessarily have to get the 2-pack. Get the single pack instead, where you have Flash, much more happier than with his 2-pack release. Happy I was to have picked up the Flash Red Death 2-pack, but happier I am to have also picked up the single card release of the Fastest Man Alive. Though they share the exact same bodies, right down to the fact that they have the same peg holes where you can attach the Speed Force, so you don't have to necessarily attach it to this Flash. If you want to use these Speed Force effects with the 2-pack Flash, you can also do that as well. But the thing that sells this figure for me is the expression that they decided to go with on his face. I prefer an arrogant smirk on Flash, and not looking like he has to hold potty. Don't get me wrong, the other Flash was fine and good if you had him in a pose, like if he was running with Red Death. But if you have him just standing there, it sort of seems out of place that he's got so many visible teeth on his face. I prefer my Flash to have a smirk. I'm glad this figure did have that. Now, like I said, this one does come with the benefit of having the additional Speed Force effects that you can attach all over his body. You can choose as many or as little as you want. I did leave one of them off here for final looks just to show you that Flash does balance perfectly on a display stand just with his 1 foot. Again, there's not really much that changes from this Flash to the other, so the things I liked about the costume from the 2-pack still carry over to this one, but there's something about a smirk expression that I think lends better to Flash. And not that he has been holding the bathroom for like the last couple of hours. What do you guys think of this Flash? Which one do you prefer? Do you like the one with the smirk on the face, or do you like more the anguish look that he had on the 2-pack release? Always like reading your comments down below. If you're also new to this channel and you're enjoying all the content you've been seeing and enjoying the fact that we go through so many of these DC Multiverse reviews, if you haven't yet done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and make sure you come back to this channel on a regular basis, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we've got new videos popping up at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So every single day, there's 2 new videos that you guys could be checking out. Lots more stuff coming your way, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.